What is going on, everybody? Justin here with the Miles Matter, and I am back for another shoe comparison video, a head-to-head battle. And for that, we're going to take a look at the Adidas Boston 12, and that's going to go up against the ASICS Superblast 2. So the reason I'm comparing both of these shoes and putting them up against each other, because right now, these are really the only shoes I have in my rotation that would be like true tempo, up-tempo category, meaning it could handle the slower paces pretty well, but it also could pick it up. And without getting into any sort of carbon plate or anything like that, these are the two shoes that I have for the job right now. So we're going to start with the Adidas Boston 12. I don't necessarily want to get into the specs of everything, but I will say just real quick, my men's 9.5 comes in at 9.5 ounces and weighs a little bit more than the ASICS Superblast 2, which weighs around 8.9 ounces for my men's 9.5. But specs altogether, I don't want to get into too much. I just want to talk about my personal experience with how these shoes performed. So with the Adidas Boston 12, to be honest, I almost wrote this shoe off. I literally gave it one more shot, and I said if it doesn't work on this run, I'll try and sell it. I'll try and do something with it. And thankfully, it ended up working. It's a shoe that I go to pretty often for my tempo days, up tempo. And even though I pick it up pretty often for those days, I won't say it's my favorite, but it does the job. It does what it needs to. I really like the ride of it. So I like the Light Strike Pro, my marathon shoe. As of my last marathon, and a shoe I go back to from time to time is the Adidas Pro 3. If they could just fix the upper, which I'm hoping they do in the 4, that would be amazing. But so I do enjoy the Light Strike Pro. I really like that foam. Where I have my issues with this shoe is in the upper. In the right shoe, when I first started using the shoe, I was getting a lot of pain right in here on my big toe. So I really had to break it in a bit. But once it broke in, it's not too bad. But where I have the biggest issues is I have a hard time getting like a really snug lockdown in the heel. Sometimes I'll do the runner's knot, but I don't like to do that. It's just my personal preference in running shoes. So I'll kind of like just crank down the laces. But all in all, the shoe performs well. It handles the slower paces pretty well. And then when I need to pick it up, I've been finding that I get more out of the shoe the more I put into it. And I think why I didn't like it initially was because the upper felt a little stiff, and I was going through a lot of issues. I've been going through on and off issue with my right foot, with the peroneal tendon, the big toe. It's none of your concern, shit you don't care about. But it wasn't working well for my foot. And then I'd hit about 8 or 9 mile runs in the shoe and it'd really start to bother my foot. But now I'm at a point where I think the shoe is kind of holding up. It's doing what it needs to do. Again, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Up next, the ASICS Superblast 2. So I have about 10 to 15 miles already in the shoe, and I'll just say it now, but I've already sold this shoe. I'm gonna ship it out in 2 days. But I thought I'd get a quick review in because I have about 200 miles on the first version, and again, 10 to 15 miles on this version. And I've noticed, within these 10 to 15 miles, the difference between the two. And I'll just say, I don't love this shoe. I never loved the first one the way people talk about it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough to put 200 miles. But anytime I went to go grab it, I wasn't in love with it, which I find an issue in where I'm at in my running career journey, whatever you want to call it. If I'm not absolutely in love with the shoe, I kind of don't even want it in my rotation. And same with this, it handles the slow miles well. This FF Turbo Plus is a nice change of pace compared to the first version. It's soft right off the bat. I'm really curious how it'd be once you get towards 100, 150 miles. So as much as I love the midsole, I think the shoe runs a little long. I had sizing issues within the first version. The 9 was a little snug, whereas the 9.5 fit good, but still a little long, especially in my smaller foot. And where I really have an issue and why, I'm picking the Boston 12 over the Superblast is because when I'm thinking of an up-tempo shoe, like I want a shoe that could handle the slower pace as well. And then when I need to pick it up, it's not an issue. And even though this handles those slower pace as well, and I would pick this over for my long run over the 12, it becomes an issue where when I need to pick up the pace, I can, but I feel like I'm just fighting the shoe the whole time. If you could kind of see, like, it's very wide here in the toe box. I have a wide foot, but this is a little too wide or too sloppy for my liking. And it's hard to get like a good lockdown. And with that being said, when you're trying to get that quick turnover on your foot, this feels very sloppy to me. It feels like I'm running in a clown shoe, and the colorway don't help. I hate this colorway. I can't stand it. But besides the colorway, and it's just not what I want to run in if I want to run in an up-tempo shoe. So if we're going purely tempo, I'm picking the Boston 12, just because, if you look at the two side by side, this looks more dialed in. It looks more like a race fit. And that turnover, for me personally, I find it a little quicker and easier in the Boston 12. But if we were going to do like long run and easy miles, I would probably pick this over the 12. Definitely for a long run. But I have my like holy grail long run shoe. I'll just cut to it quick. It's the Hoka Cielo X1. This is the prototype version, but there will be a review on this up pretty soon, so check it out. But that's going to be my long run shoe. And for me not to love this shoe that much and spend $180 on it, like I'd rather just sell it, which I did, got my money back, and I'll look to maybe try out the Deviate Nitro 2 or 3 or the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, because again, even though I'm picking this over the Superblast, I don't love it, but it gets the job done, and I'm thinking that maybe there's a better tempo shoe out there for me that suits my running needs. So it's not a bad shoe. I know the cult following will kill me for probably picking the Boston over the Superblast 2, but I just find this a better tempo shoe, and it just feels more dialed in. So let me know if you agree with that. Let me know if you're picking the Boston 12 over the Superblast, if you think I got it wrong, if you can't believe you came across somebody who doesn't love the Superblast 1 or 2. And let me know what your tempo shoe is, because again, I could really use that like perfect tempo shoe that maybe I could swap out the Boston 12 for. So if you got this far, again, thank you, much love.